Hello everyone and welcome to this joint webinar from Microsoft and VirtualMetric. This webinar will be recorded and the link to the recording will be shared with you afterwards. If you have any questions during this webinar, please write them down in the chat. At the end, we will spend some time answering these questions. So let's start. First, let's have a look at the agenda. First, our speakers for today's webinar will introduce themselves. Then, Ronnie de Jong from Microsoft will share insights on Sentinel Data Lake. Then Yusuf Öztürk will talk about how VirtualMetric helps with accelerating Sentinel Data Lake deployment. And finally, we have, like said before, a Q&A session. So, let's kick it off. Let's start by introducing the two speakers of our webinar. Ronnie, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, Mark, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Ronnie de Jong, and I'm a Senior Partner Solution Architect at Microsoft. And my focus and passion is helping partners to innovate their security practice and build modern security operations services that scale. So that's in short who I am and what I'm doing.
Great, thanks a lot, Ronnie. And now Yusuf, can you please introduce yourself as well?
Yes, thanks, Mark. So I'm Yusuf. I'm the co-founder and CTO of VirtualMetric. I'm an ex-system engineer, an old Microsoft MVP. Now I'm just focusing to the new VirtualMetric data stream. Thank you.
Great, thanks a lot, guys. I'll give the word to you. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Mark. So let's start with the beginning. We are all aware that security data is growing faster than ever. There are more sources, more telemetry, and more logs. But the problem is, SIEM cost grows even faster than the data. So security teams are constantly forced to choose between visibility and budget. And Microsoft's response to this challenge is Microsoft Sentinel Data Lake, which changes how security data is stored, retained, and analyzed. To explain the idea behind it and how it works, I will hand it over to Ronnie de Jong. Thanks, Ronnie.
Yeah, thanks, Yusuf, and thanks for setting the scene. Indeed, Sentinel Data Lake is introduced to address a certain challenge. And as you can see, we have it in threefold here. And it's actually a fundament to improve your coverage and make it also attractive to ingest massive volumes of diverse data on a scalable platform. And of course, we should also keep a risk-based approach in mind because collection is not necessarily detection. It should also represent a certain value. And Data Lake, it helps you to achieve a better coverage. And we are achieving that by a more cost-efficient way by decoupling the storage side as well as the compute side. So you only pay for what you use and what you need, and making it more sustainable for large-scale retention and keeping up with compliance without breaking your budget, which is important as well. And actually, this is also the foundation how we move from a fragmented defense to a connected AI-driven security with the data lake. And that we will elaborate later on during this session and why it's actually laying that foundation. So that's in short, Sentinel Data Lake. And let's have a look at the overview of its architecture. Because a lot of components already been known, but there are also a few components introduced by Sentinel Data Lake. And when we are starting with the data lake as the fundament, you see it at the below, we are ingesting the data by leveraging our connector ecosystem. There are tremendous connectors available. And if not available or addressing your needs, you can build them yourselves by the connectionless connector framework and to pull in all the data. And you see also a distinction between the assets, the activities, and the threat intelligence. And this is actually where we are ingesting the telemetries and making sure that we have first a clear overview of your landscape. Secondly, also the activities and the events we are seeing, and also combining that with the threat intelligence. And that helps us also to shift from a more reactive approach to a more proactive approach. And on top of that, you see also a new kit here, which is the MCP server. And actually, an MCP server is, put it frankly, an interface that allows AI systems, for example, Copilot, to interact with your security data using natural language. And that you can imagine that opens a lot of new scenarios here. And you can see the MCP server also as an AI gateway to your Sentinel, and leverage MCP compatible clients to retrieve data, reasoning over your security data. So in short, data lake isn't just a storage, it's an engine that actually transforms your data, raw signals into actionable intelligence and actions. So that's in short the data lake and its foundation. So let's move on, because it's actually a game changer. And as you can see here in the slide, there are many reasons why Sentinel Data Lake is a game changer. Because it unifies actually all our security data, no matter where it comes from, at scale. And it's also optimizes your costs. And another important thing is what we already mentioned, it's also enabling your organization to use AI for the better good. It's not only the traditional way of ingesting data, doing the detections, following up, incident response, but also more in a proactive way where AI is connecting the dots for you. And that opens a way different outlook of your threat landscape. And so actually, data lake is the foundation of a more preemptive security, acting before attackers are able to strike, where actually prediction becomes your protection. And it's all about shifting from a reactive defense to a proactive defense. That's where data lake is coming into play. And looking at additional advantages, a few I wanted to highlight is we mentioned the decoupling of the storage part and the compute part, and that gives you flexibility when it comes to cost and functionality. Automatically, as we are talking about the SaaS platform, the data which is ingested in your analytics tier is also automatically replicated to your data lake, and it's respecting its current retention period configured at the analytics tier. And another important benefit here is the 6-to-1 data compression, because we are using open standards like Park files, and that's also an impressive reduction in data storage. If, like, put it as an example, if you're an organization where you're ingesting a ballpark figure 6 terabyte of data each day, then it will effectively end up in 1 terabyte on storage, and that will be only charged. And so that's another great benefit of Sentinel Data Lake. So if we are depicting on a high over of the distinction between the current known analytics tiers and the difference in the data lake tier, then it's put it short, the analytics tier is ideal for real-time threat detections, alerts, and behavior analytics, where the data lake is positioned ideally for high volume, for bulk logs, for long-term retention, advanced analytics, and for forensics investigations. So that's actually how both tiers are positioned. And when it comes to a pricing model, keep in mind that it's organized in threefold. The main pillars of the pricing model of the Sentinel in general is the ingestion part, where we have the various tiers available. It's the storage part. So it's not only the volume of ingesting, but it's also where you are ingesting. Is it hot storage? Is it cold storage? and the period of time, also known as the retention period. And lastly, it's the compute, where we are performing the analytics, whether it's advanced hunting, whether it's automation jobs, etc. That's in the latter. But the first two are the main pillars of the pricing point here. And talking about pricing and cost, we introduced or announced, I have to say, during Ignite, the cost management feature. And the cost management feature is a new feature which is only available in the Defender portal. And to be more specific, it's currently in public preview. Some customers already having this capability, some might not. So that will be made available in a staged approach. So definitely recommend to look out for this feature. It's available in the Defender portal. So if you're still in the Azure portal and using Sentinel, that feature won't show up over there. But it's a great feature to gain more insights and more insights of the usage of your data lake. And that's important because it's giving you insights of usage, trends, etc. What amount of data is being ingested, the log storage, the query, or the compute. And you can also configure alerts on the notification page to make sure that it's predictable and that you won't facing surprises when it comes to the usages, and also configuring threshold policies per your needs. And so that helps you to keep track on your usage and then prevent expected charges in that sense. And it's a quite new feature. And one important thing to mention, it will only show the cost involved by the data lake. So you still also have the cost involved with the default Sentinel part, but that's also managed through the regular tools available. So this is purely for the data lake usage. So when we are talking about use cases, and this is one example, and there are many more use cases, but this is like an example of when your organization is running detections over a period time of 3 months. And when we are seeing a new indicator linked to a breach from a year or longer ago, you might need the historical context here. And also giving you understanding of the exposure that indicator might have or might not have for your organization. And this is important to give you the insights and actionable step-by-step for your incident response. It's giving you direction on your triage, and also the fact if what actions you have to take, what summaries you have to make, so you are, as an organization, are able to remediate faster. And so this is a very helpful element where you're combining the real-time detections with the long-term historical detections and doing retrospective searches or advanced hunting in that sense. So this is only one use cases, but yeah, you can define multiple use cases, imagine. So with that, I can imagine you are getting excited about getting started with Sentinel Data Lake. And I'm excited as well. And as you can see, in the past, we were reluctant to ingest data to telemetry, also because cost involved. And again, it should always a risk driven approach here. But we had also complex infrastructure, whether it's Sentinel complementary with log storage, or you have an Azure ADX cluster, Data Explorer. We are now changing to a current approach where we are able to leverage more signals. So we are improving our coverage and detections with a SaaS cloud platform. So no additional infrastructure is needed or maintained, like, for example, an ADX cluster. And you can just do that with a click in onboarding your data lake. And that comes with a lot of benefits. Benefits in terms of cost. So the impact here is that we have definitely a cost cut here using Sentinel Data Lake. And you're also able to shift high volume data in your data lake in an optimized way. And lastly, to conclude, it's just a matter of a few clicks, making sure you're addressing the prerequisites and just onboard your Sentinel data lake. So no need for further maintaining infrastructure or complexity at all. So that's from the Sentinel data lake advantages perspective. Now you might also think, okay, Ronnie, interesting. At the start, Yusuf mentioned we are facing the challenge of a data explosion. But Sentinel Data Lake is not actually solving the problem in the sense of getting more data. It's helping you to ingest the data. It gives us scalable, low-cost storage, but that doesn't solve the explosion here. And organizations still need a way to find their data, their telemetry data, into the lake in a consistent, efficiently, and the right format. And I believe, Yusuf, that's the real bottleneck as of today. And I believe you are facing that challenge and you have there a solution for, right?
Yes, that's true. We talk with many different customers, so they have all facing the same issues. So maybe today we will help those customer types how they can tackle these challenges. So let's start. Let's start with picturing the ideal Sentinel data lake setup. So of course, in the perfect world, we would collect all data source, right? I mean, collect everywhere, everything, and then send it to the data lake without being constrained by the SIEM cost. And ideally, we expect that all logs should be normalized to ASIM. So when it's in the ASIM format, it can be also really effective for the AI usage, especially for the security copilot. And naturally, we would expect that all logs are enriched. So these enriched parts can be used by the AI. Also, the context is in there, so it will be even better for the AI use case. And eventually, we would like to have this in a very automated, fast, and secure way, because as us, like the security engineers, we don't want to spend time all the time making sure that everything is good, etc. So it will be the ideal way to do. And once we do all these steps, eventually we will make our environment security copilot ready, because we know that AI-based threats, it will be accelerated in the future. And the only way to protect those AI-based threats, of course, with an AI-based protection for a defense. So Sentinel Data Lake today is basically making this possible. And VirtualMetric is helping to bring those log sources normalize to the ASIM, enrich, and to make that easier with the security copilots. So how do we do that today? Let's start with an like a structure, how we do it. We have our own smart agents. So these smart agents can use auto discovery to get data from application or server logs. Also, we can get logs from the network device, and we can also get the endpoint telemetry data. And by using auto discovery, most of the time users ask, I don't know what to collect. So with the auto discovery, we know what to collect. And then with these data sources, we send them immediately to the processing part. In the processing where we do the threat intelligence and then context detection, even we can use AI here. And eventually we are doing all the ETL process and then normalize to the target schema, which is common security log sometimes, or in this case, we mostly do the ASIM. But if you want to store data in a more generic open way, you can also use OCSF or ECS as well. And eventually, after the ETL process, the most important part is to understand what part of the data is meaningful for Microsoft Sentinel. So we can route that data directly into Sentinel so we can get the power of analytics tier. Because analytics tier will give you quickly the detection. But at the same time, you want to store all these data into the long-term storage in the data lake tier, which is Sentinel Data Lake, So VirtualMetric can automatically handle this without doing any additional things. And if your organization needs some compliant storage today, VirtualMetric can also automatically handle that in the process, and then we can send all the data in a raw format to the Azure Blob Storage. So you can store this data maybe 20 years, 25 years in an immutable way. So after explaining the structure, let's go and see an example how we do this. So let's start with a network security device. So network security devices are perfect log sources for Microsoft Sentinel Data Lake because they're really vast amount, and then they are usually in a different raw formats. So in here, as VirtualMetric, we can help you to store this data in ASIN format into data lake with this process. First, we can get the logs in native format or Ceph or Leaf, and then we can help you to automate to put the data in data lake, blob storage in Parquet format. And then we can add ASIN normalization and enrichment on top of these raw messages, and then we can send them directly into the Sentinel Data Lake. So as of today, Sentinel Data Lake doesn't support ASIN tables yet. In the future, we know that the support will be here. But today, VirtualMetric can help you to create these custom tables for ASIN automatically, which I will show you at the end of, I think, the presentation with our Content Hub integration. And then we can reroute this ASIN data directly into the Sentinel Data Lake. But after this part, if you want to send it to some meaningful data to Sentinel, we can help you to optimize this data by using different techniques like field filtering, event filtering, and sampling. So after this process, only the optimized data will be in the Sentinel, so you will also get a great cost optimization. So just to summarize, like what kind of normalization happens here, I have one slide for you. For instance, the left one is an example raw message from a checkpoint device. And eventually, when we convert that into ASIN, you see that it becomes more readable, even human readable format. But this also becomes a perfect data source for AI. So your security copilot can easily go through between different devices because all device logs becomes into the ASIN format. So let's continue with the key technical capabilities of VirtualMetric Data Stream. So today we can collect your data from multiple device sources, including Windows and Linux machines, by using total agentless way. We can leverage WinRM or SSH protocols. We can detect these log sources, and then we can collect the data automatically. And on top of that data, we can do the normalization to the ASIN by default in this process, including with the schema drift detection, because that's also another question that we most of the time gets from the users, that they say, what if the vendor changed their schema in the source? Maybe there's a firmware upgrade, and then let's say Checkpoint sends a totally different way of logs. So with the schema drift, we can detect that and give you an opportunity, a way to get notified by creating maybe Defender incidents, or maybe creating a PagerDuty alert, or maybe sending directly into the Microsoft Teams as a message. So eventually, when you do that, you start thinking about the data security. So for that, we have a full write-ahead log architecture in the product, and this makes sure that all data is safe during the process. Even the process crashes, we can start again and continue from the last point of process. This especially is really good for the enterprises, so they can always make sure that their secure log will be arrived to Sentinel Data Lake. And eventually, when you're processing many log sources, of course, you will need a really high-speed solution, which DataStream is a vectorized pipeline solution and can handle all the logs in the multiple core situations. And with our new VMF3 format, we can even compress the data up to 99%. So the data process will be really fast. and the migration from the on-prem to the cloud will be even cheaper, especially for the egress cost. It will be really cheaper for you. So let's talk about the data sources. As you can see here, we already support many different sources to get the data. But I think one notable thing that we are going to introduce very soon is the CCF support. So today, Sentinel Content Hub already supports more than, I think, 300 or 500 sources. And many of them is becoming CCF based. CCF means Codeless Connector Framework. So VirtualMetric will support this in the solution. So you can basically migrate your CCF configuration to us, and then you can collect the data via us and then send it to Sentinel or Data Lake or Blob as well. And eventually from the enterprise log sources, you see that we are covering most of the major vendors, and we are even bringing more multi-cloud support in the beginning of the next year. So today we already have more than 45 vendor packs, which makes Security Copilot ready, because we are converting many of these log sources into ASIM. So this data will store in ASIM tables in your Sentinel Data Lake, and the Security Copilot can run very easily and do the actions very easily. So if one of these vendor packs don't meet with your requirements, maybe you want to create a new one. For that reason, we have a pipeline editor. And with this pipeline editor, you can use more than 165 processors to be able to make new pipelines. So with this support, you can use many things without any coding. You can just create your own normalizations and maybe parsing. And with this help, with the help of these processors, you can make sure that the entire pipeline process is still fast and secure because you don't have to write any coding. And if you have multi-cloud environment, maybe you're using AWS or GCP, but you still want to collect all these application logs, cloud logs, and then maybe send it to the Azure cloud, to your Sentinel and Sentinel Data Lake. So for that reason, we support these multi-environments. You can just install our directors, and these directors can collect the data locally from on your prem or from your cloud and send it to the Azure by using a tiny proxy as a Azure function. And then with this, we can make sure that there's a high compression between the environments. And by using function app, we can leverage Azure Managed Identity. So you don't have to use any tokens, or you don't need to install maybe Azure Arc to anywhere. So with this architecture, we make it even simpler for you. And in this picture, we have also a fleet management control plane, which is our VirtualMetric Cloud. And that you will only use it for management of entire fleet, and no data, no secure data goes to the cloud. Everything happens internally in your environment. And we just use the SaaS part only for managing the fleet. So today, if you want to integrate it with the Sentinel Data Lake or Sentinel, you can either use Sentinel Content Hub, because we already provide 3 connectors there. And then you can quickly do Sentinel integration or maybe Sentinel Data Lake integration by deploying automatically the DCEs, DCRs, and the custom tables. And you can even find our director proxy, which will help you to leverage these Azure Managed Identity and high compression scenarios. At the same time, we are on now Microsoft Security Store. You can easily go to the Security Store and find our 2 solutions, one for cloud and one for the Sentinel. And then even from there, you can purchase and then you can start using it. So as Microsoft said in Ignite, VirtualMetric is the fastest way to fill Sentinel Data Lake with AI-ready async-normalized telemetry from on-prem and from non-Microsoft sources. So this is a really powerful solution and can really accelerate your migration to the Sentinel Data Lake. So after this, let's check the key takeaways about today's webinar. First one is, of course, Sentinel Data Lake is becoming the foundational for SIEM and Security Copilot, because we will see that Microsoft will start building more and more on top of the Sentinel Data Lake, and you will need more log sources, and the data should be already normalized so you can use the AI, and that will be the big shift. And as second, Sentinel Data Lake will provide a sustainable cost model and the foundation for preemptive threat detection. So this will be the biggest change in the markets. And Ronnie, if you have anything to add here, please go ahead.
No, indeed, with the preemptive, that's actually the long-term bet from us, from Microsoft, that we are shifting gears where reactive approach, reactive detection and response is no longer suitable, also with the massive scale and the velocity, how threats evolved, also with the use of AI. And that's where we also need AI to countermeasure this. And that's where we are heading from a reactive approach to a predictive approach. And that's alludes also with Gartner, where we are preemptive threat detection. And this is actually the foundation which makes that possible.
And additionally, DataStream accelerates the deployment. So all necessary logs collected, normalized to ASIM, enriched, filtered, and route to data lake. And at the same time, you can leverage the other environments like blob storage or maybe Sentinel directly as well. And DataStream helps you to close the visibility gaps, reduce manual overhead, and optimize the ingestion costs, because the control is yours. You decide what to send and what not. And VirtualMetric allow you to do this very easily through the interface with a simple few clicks all through the UI. So as the next step, I will leave it to our moderator, Mark.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ronnie and Yusuf. I think it was a very good and clear story. Now it's time for the Q&A session, if applicable. Currently, there are no open questions, so that could mean two things. First of all, it was extremely clear what Yusuf and Ronnie presented. Or secondly, nobody does actually have a real question. So let's wait a couple of minutes to see if people are willing or having some burning questions, and then we can answering them.
Happy to take them.
Yeah.
Maybe one question for me, for you, Ronnie. You mentioned the cost management feature. When will that be available? Are you aware of the GA date?
Now, as mentioned, the cost management feature is right now in public preview. But there is, to my knowledge, there is an estimated date, but that's known by me, and yeah, that's still in the NDA, so I can't elaborate on that. So yeah, it's in public preview, so it's available. But when it becomes GA, that's unclear to me.
Okay, thanks. Yes, we got a comment from an anonymous attendee. Thanks for the good presentation. Question: does any data VirtualMetric processes leave the customer's environment?
That's a no, because the all data processed internally in your environments, and the SaaS part is only for the fleet management. So the communication between your environments with the SaaS is only based on the metrics. So we just collect how much data you process. Maybe you have pipeline errors, or maybe you have some other issues with the target or source health, because that's also another thing. Usually people want to know if their source device is healthy. Sometimes your FortiGate device or maybe Checkpoint stops sending the logs. And then, of course, you want to get notified if that happens, so you can reach your network guy and say like, hey, something is happening. I'm not getting any logs. So to be really fast on that, we are adding these health functionalities with the notifications. So if that happens, you will get notified quickly, and then you can solve the problems. So
Okay,
that's the only reason why we use the SaaS part.
Thanks, Yusuf. An additional question from Gidrius. Is the data lake compatible with multi-tenant multi-tenant architecture?
That's a good one. Sentinel Data Lake is indeed compatible with an MSSP or multi-tenant architecture scenarios. But yeah, the way how that works, the data lake itself, it's tenant scoped. So yet we are supporting full multi-tenant management capabilities through Sentinel plus Defender and Azure Lighthouse construction. But the Sentinel data lake, yeah, that's actually a tenant-wide repository, provisioned per tenant, attached to your primary Sentinel workspace. So you have a one-on-one relationship to your current primary Sentinel workspace where you can enable and onboard a Sentinel data lake. And then you have the usual controls like the multi-tenant or multi-tenant workspace or the MTO capabilities to manage these functionalities. And when it comes to federation, where you overarching data lakes, and that's also something which is currently not supported, but that will also enable multiple scenarios in that regard.
Okay, thanks for the answer, Ronnie. Let's wait if additional questions will come in.
And I can add one more thing to Ronnie's answer.
Of
that
course you
primary
can.
workspace is also going to be different in later, because yeah, right now it's only primary, but I know that they're going to enable this for every workspaces later on. There's no date yet, I believe, but that's also a plan to do.
Okay, thanks. Another question. Is the data in Sentinel data lake immutable?
That's a good one. No. Although Sentinel Data Lake is tamper evident, it's not immutable. So we are keeping an audit trace. So every mutation or change is being audited. But you can, for example, you can purge or delete data. So in that regard, it's not immutable. And immutable like warm, write once and read many. That's something which can be achieved by, for example, Azure Blob Storage. So if you still have a lot of tremendous data, you can still position the data lake. And for the data which requires immutable, you can also export the data from your data lake or directly from the log analytics into the immutable configuration on Azure Blob Storage. So that's actually the way how to achieve and how to cope with that kind of requirements. Hopefully that resonates and gives an answer to your question, Mark.
Yeah, and with the routing from VirtualMetric, they can also do that automatically now. They can either use Azure Blob Storage, or if they have even like a local storage as well, that will be possible in the automation. I also have one question to Ronnie, actually. So sometimes we see that, of course, there are really heavy Microsoft-related customers. I mean, they use whatever possible. And then we see that, I mean, some customers are heavily invested in ADX before. And as based on your presentation, the current approach is now Sentinel and Sentinel Data Lake, because that will allow people to use more AI-based approach in the future. But it's a bit, people are hesitant to migrate from ADX to Data Lake. Of course, they're both from Microsoft products they can use. But what would you like to add there? I mean, why people should migrate, or which customers should think of migrating the data?
Yeah, that's a fair one, Yusuf. And ADX was already out there before Data Lake was introduced. And ADX definitely addresses certain scenarios. And Data Lake comes also with support for long-term storage and also for forensics and advanced hunting capabilities. And you have these tasks you can schedule, for example, and that needs to be processed. And it comes also with a certain performance. And it's like cold storage. And ADX is in between, I would say. It's more performing in that sense. I have to be carefully about that. But there are large organizations which already implemented ADX because 12 years of data retention won't work for them. And that's right as of today, one of the limitations, or at least it's a limit. You can store the data in the data lake for 12 years, where log analytics is up to two years. But if 12 years is not enough due to highly regulated industry, then ADX definitely might better suit you organizational needs. And from another point of view, ADX comes with also a kind of infrastructure you have to set up and to maintain. And that's also when we are presenting, it comes with an additional overhead. If you want to get rid of that overhead, then ADX is perhaps not the best choice because you have to maintain it, doing maintenance. That knowledge should be also in place. And that's actually where with Data Lake, that's almost that's outsourced. It's based on SaaS services. So that's more convenient in that sense, I would say. So there are multiple rationales why to consider a Data Lake. And you can also easily migrate. VirtualMetric can help you with the migration over there. And you can also hold your data in ADX and then also starting to ingest in parallel to your data lake. And so you will respect the current data, and then over time you will automatically sunset your ADX, for example. But there are many more strategies, and I believe there are also some additional documentation about how to migrate your current ADX environment and data towards to the data lake.
Indeed, definitely we can help those customers as well to migrate easily from ADX to Sentinel Data Lake. And with a one routing additionally in the route system, we can also help these customers to leverage ADX further. So that can be really easy for them to use us because we can both use ADX and Data Lake. So yeah, thank you for the explanation, Ronnie.
Great, guys. There's 1.5 minutes left in this webinar, so nothing left for me to say. Then, first of all, thanks everybody for joining. Thanks, Ronnie and Microsoft, for so closely cooperating with VirtualMetric. Just one remark, in the beginning of next year, we will host another joint webinar with Microsoft and VirtualMetric. So we all hope and we will see you there. And for the rest, again, thanks a lot for joining. And I wish you a great day and great holidays that are coming up.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be with you, Ronnie, today.
Yeah, pleasure was all mine. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
Bye, everyone.